Sometimes I come across articles or books that analyze Japanese culture, some secular, some Christian. And when they talk about Japanese religiosity, as a native Japanese guy, I often get this weird feeling like, are they really talking about us? Because most of these contents, even well researched ones, conclude that the root of Japanese behavior is Shintoism or Buddhism. They show beautiful shrines, discuss ancient harmony, and try to explain our mindset through that lens. For example, in the Netflix show James May, Our Man in Japan, the main personality James May travels across Japan, observes Japanese people's behavior, and often says things like, "This must be coming from their Shinto belief." Hmm, you know what? At those moments, I want to scream to the screen, "Hey James, you are making a typical mistake." As a native Japanese person living and doing ministry here every day, I can tell you that is not the reality on the ground. In everyday life, the average Japanese person isn't thinking about deity or ancient harmony, rituals, and such when making their choices. There is actually another highly functional religion ruling this country. It is an invisible system that dictates everything from our extreme punctuality to our intense social anxiety. A system that most Westerners take decades to even notice. Hello, I am Taka Tanaka, a native Japanese campus minister in Japan. Today we are going to break down this hidden functional religion of Japan and how understanding it can make fast forward your ministry by 10 years. So without further ado, let's begin. What is the mainstream religion of Japan? This question sounds very simple, but the answer is very complicated. Nippon.com gives us an interesting statistics. As of December 31st, 2016, there were 84.7 million believers in Shinto and 87.7 million Buddhists in Japan. When the number of Christians and adherents to other religions are added, the total becomes 182.2 million. What is so complicated about it? Well, the thing is, Japan's population is only 126 million, meaning that this total is around 40% more than the country's total population. However, that is not the most complicated part, because it can be explained easily. The explanation is that there was a time in our history that Shintoism and Buddhism got deeply integrated. So, what this statistic says is basically that many of them consider themselves both Shintoists and Buddhists. The surplus of 60 million people probably ticked both Shintoism and Buddhism as their religion. And as a native Japanese, I can easily imagine that even those who ticked only one may easily switch to the other on any given day. So, what is the most complicated part then? That is actually that neither of Shintoism and Buddhism are their true religion. What? Am I saying that they do not know what their religion is? That's right. Most of Japanese people do not know what their religion is. How is that possible? That's the main topic of this video. I will explain what is the true mainstream religion of Japan. But before we go there, let's define what religion is. There are many different ways to define it, but in this video I define criteria of religion as follows. First one is transcendent being and his laws. There is a belief among people that there is a transcendent being, let's say godlike figure, and it has supreme power that individuals cannot stand against, and this power comes with a set of certain moral standards. The second one is sanctioning system. This transcendent being is believed to give rewards to those who obey the set of moral standards and punish those who don't. The third is societal order. People follow the moral standard because of their fear of this sanctioning system, and it gives a moral order to the society. And neither of Shinto nor Japanese Buddhism fits into this criteria. But there's a hidden, functional religion that fits to this very well and defining Japanese people's actions in daily basis. That true religion is called Seken. This term you probably will not find in a quick search of internet, but it is deeply rooted in Japanese mind. To explain what it is probably best to explain from a geographical point of view. Japan is an island country, and the land is very mountainous. The percentage of habitable land is only about 30%, which is very low. Just for your reference, the UK has 85% habitable land, France has 73%, Germany has 67%, the United States have 67%. Furthermore, Japan's main agricultural product is rice. Rice farming in this mountainous and limited space developed a very unique collective discipline. And that is Seken, the main topic of this video. Rice farming in Japan requires a long-time commitment and intense community cooperation. Consequently, the community holds ultimate power over an individual's survival. Therefore, the absolute first priority was to maintain peace within your community. Without community support, you simply could not survive. And because it required a long-term commitment and the communities were physically isolated by mountains, you couldn't just pack up and move to another place like, I don't like these people, so let's start a new life somewhere else. You were basically stuck in that community forever. This is how traditional Japanese culture maintained its discipline. Once someone in the community broke the rules, which were almost always unwritten, the community would punish that person by cutting off 80% of daily community support and relationships. This system is called Mura-Hachibu, 80% system. This functioned as a powerful sanctioning system. People were terrified of offending others or causing inconvenience to the community because their very survival depended on staying inside. For Westerners, the closest equivalent to this in your culture is probably cancel culture. When the community turns against someone, they ostracize them and essentially hand down a social death sentence. While cancel culture might seem like a relatively recent phenomenon in the West, we in Japan have lived in that exact kind of society for centuries. So now, let's put this second system and the criteria of religion together so that we can see how Seken is a strong functional religion. Firstly, Seken functions as the transcendent being, and it always imposes you to keep the unwritten rules, which is equivalent to the laws in traditional religions. Secondly, the Mura-Hachibu 80% system functions as a sanctioning system. Once you offend the community, it would be very difficult to survive. Lastly, this sanctioning system causes them to have very strong discipline and a moral order, because offending the community makes your life very difficult. So we can say that the traditional Japanese society is a mutual surveillance society that people are always afraid of offending others. So from a missiological perspective, we can put Japanese religiosity into the following statement. While they are so indifferent to be forgiven by God, they are so desperate to be forgiven by Seken. Or, just as an artistic explanation, let me put it this way. If there were a Bible of Seken, the followings would most likely be written. In the beginning, there was Seken. Fear of Seken is the beginning of wisdom. Remember also your Seken in the days of your youth. And you know what? There is even Genesis equivalent of Seken Bible. Over 120 years ago, one of the greatest Japanese novelists, Soseki Natsume, basically wrote the genesis of Seken in his famous novel, Kusamakura. He wrote this incredible line in the very beginning. This world was created neither by God nor the devil, but simply by the ordinary people around us. Think about how profound that is for your ministry. In Japan, the ultimate authority is not a God in heaven. It's the eyes of the ordinary people around you. And later in the exact same novel, Soseki goes even deeper to describe how these people actually behave. He wrote, in a brilliant bit of social satire, that people in this society act like unpaid detectives. They follow you around for 5 or 10 years, keeping tabs on your every move, counting every single slip up you make, even counting your silent farts. And then they come right up to your face to tell you exactly how many times you messed up, as if that is the whole purpose of human life. It's hilarious, but it's painfully accurate. Even as a modern Japanese man, I can totally relate to this. And after all, 120 years later, we are still living in the same exact surveillance system. So this is truly Japanese people's genesis. In my own experience, when I explain this concept to other Japanese people, most of them would immediately agree that this Seken is our true religion. But until the very moment, they never saw it as a religion. This is the very reason why I said that the Japanese people do not know what their own religion is. Now, let me show you a modern example of how this Seken actually plays out in today's society. To them, it might be just how everyday life works, but through the lens of religion, it is truly religious. When COVID-19 hits, I saw many cars putting this sticker on their cars. This says, I have a license plate from another prefecture, but I am a local resident. What are they trying to say by this sticker? In most countries I know, when it comes to following pandemic restrictions, the only authority you are accountable to is the local police. If they question you, you just show them your ID or some proof that you're a local resident. But in Japan, those who you need to be accountable to is the people around you. They worry about how others think of your number plate and want to explain to them. Not police or some sort of government authority. This shows how Japanese people consider where the real authority is in their everyday life. Why am I bringing this up? Because when you come to Japan, you will observe how Japanese people behave and try to make sense of it. But if you assume Shintoism is their background of behavior, you will miss the point. But many Westerners do that. At the beginning of this video, I mentioned James May's Netflix show as a prime example of how Westerners typically analyze Japanese culture. And by now, you see how far that is from the reality. I don't blame him at all. I would probably do the exact same thing when I look at another culture, viewing it through my own foreign lens, and ultimately ending up missing the true picture. And here's the catch. Another massive barrier to understanding this is that when you come to Japan as a missionary, you will be treated as Gaijin, literally meaning an outside person. An outsider to what? To Seken. Because you are an outsider, people won't expect you to live within the Seken system. As long as you are this Gaijin, you are free from the unspoken expectations that Japanese people place on each other. What I often observe is that the missionary marries a local Japanese wife, has children, and raises them in the Japanese system. Then, little by little, you actually start to live inside the community, and only then do you finally catch a true glimpse of what Seken really is. But as a local native Japanese minister, I realized that there's one thing I can do to help you. By introducing this hidden reality of Seken today, I can help you bypass years of personal struggles. By watching this video, I believe that you have just gained a 10-year fast forward in your cultural understanding. How Japanese society functions is fundamentally different from the West. But once you understand and embrace the reality of Seken, a massive door is open for you to share the gospel in a way that truly resonates with the hearts of people here. If this video gave you a new lens to look at Japan, please hit the subscribe button. On this channel, we will keep breaking down the realities of Japanese culture to help you fast forward your ministry and cultural understanding. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.